Hey folks, John with Complete Technology Solutions, your friend in the computer business. So throughout this entire wonderful virus situation, I've managed to sell almost all of my gaming machines, including my shop VR machine. Now a lot of you guys who've been down here have seen the VR machine, you guys have used it, a whole lot of fun. Well, since it looks like we might be coming toward the end of this thing, and at least customers can get in the building, we need to build another VR machine. Well, I thought, what better time to test out a new case? Here we go. All right, guys, so whenever I use a case, now I've actually tested several of them on here. You guys have seen everything from the trash to treasure all the way to the little cubes that I love to use from Thermaltake. For me, cases boil down to three things, and looks is very low on the list. Functionality is what counts for me. So size and amount of fans, that's a huge one. Airflow in and out is the most important thing to me. And you know what, LEDs and all that stuff, those are cool and all, but my dad used to tell me when I was a teenager, chrome don't get you home. So at the end of the day, it's all about how functional and how solid this is, how cool it's going to keep all your components, and how well things are going to run certainly in the long term, right? So today I'm going to show you one of the mini tower cases. This is called a Fractal Design Core 1000. Now, what attracted me to this case, not only the price range, once again, price is pretty low on this. I'd rather spend 10 or 20 extra bucks to get a case that's got good airflow. I did a review on one that was great. It had a glass side, tempered glass, beautiful, looked wonderful, but it was almost completely sealed. It was like a vacuum. So within minutes, everything shot up in temperature, even with the exhaust fan blowing out as quickly as it could. So, airflow, that's really the key. Well, what caught my attention about this one is it's got a large 120 millimeter fan in the front, but the whole front is perforated, and you've got perforations all the way down the back and on the side. So we should be able to get a nice positive airflow through it and a negative airflow out the back using another fan. Needless to say, it doesn't come with it, so we're going to have to add that, all right? So let's take a look at this case real quick, and then we'll break out the other components we're going to use. Now, this video is not necessarily about the actual system itself, but more about how this case is going to be used and what it's going to look like at the end. So let's crack this thing open. Let's see what we get going here. All right. Yeah, see, right off the bat, I can see this, guys. We've got some huge perforations here that look beautiful. All right, so we're going to go ahead and crack this open, and check this out, guys. I mean, you can even see the perforations looking at Stumpy here. Let's get this out and see what we're looking at. Now, the good thing about this case, from a price perspective, we're talking about 30 bucks. Very inexpensive for one of these small towers. Now, this isn't quite small enough to be what I would consider a micro ATX, but more like a mini tower. All right, comes with a nice little documentation that we won't be looking at. All right. Now, I will say it's very light, and that was kind of expected. All right, so let's take a look at this, see how she looks here. I'm going to get Stumpy zoomed out so you guys can see the whole thing here. All right, so, yeah, we got perforations and what looks like a filter all the way down it. You can see that there is a fan on the front, although that is not as large, well, actually, it's as large as it could be in this case. A couple of perforations for any sort of drives for your DVDs, CD-ROMs, so on and so forth, but I doubt we'll be using those like nobody does these days. All right, so let's check the back of this. And as you can see, this is a pretty basic design that we see on most of them. So you're going to end up with 4 slots down here. So you're going to be doing either a micro ATX or a mini ATX board. You won't do a whole lot bigger. But given that what we're going to be using on this is one of our old trusty A320s, that's going to be just fine for this. So now, power supply up at the top. This is old school. You guys know that. These days, all power supplies are at the bottom. It's a heat dissipation and air kind of thing, but I don't really care for this one. Now, I can tell you that just by looking at this, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to cable it, because I don't think we're going to be testing a new power supply, by the way, guys. I don't think that power supply is modular, which means that we're going to be dealing with a ton of cables. Yeah, and as you can see, there's not a lot of room for cable management. You're not going to put it behind this back panel. So yeah, we're going to be fighting with that one a little bit. But the good news is that the case is not glass, therefore you're not going to see through it anyway. So yeah, that'll work. All right, so that's our case. For this build, this is a kind of a workhorse machine here. I was going to put an M.2 drive in, but I was really curious about something that I was reading about. So, all right, we're going to be going with our A320 board as usual. We're going to go with a Ryzen 5. Now, these were on sale on Amazon. You know, it's not often you catch what I consider a super good sale, but it's a Ryzen 5 1600. They had them on sale for $70. $70, guys. You can't go wrong with that. So we're going to go ahead and use the Ryzen 5. Now, we're going to use 8 gigs of RAM eventually, and yes, these are 4 gig, believe it or not, but they're new. It's going to be 16 by the time the shop opens up with the VR again, but just for this, we're going to go ahead and use these. Here's that 600 watt power supply I told you guys about, and let's see if this thing is actually modular. I'm willing to bet that it is not. No, it's not. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Get this out of here and we'll take a look and see what we're working with. Okay, well, it does have a pretty good sized fan on it, which of course is going to be pulling air back out, which is a good thing. But it's not modular. The cables are at least black though, so we can do something with that. All right, well, there's our power supply. We're going to make it work. That's what counts. All right, now this is what I was talking about, the interesting. Instead of using the standard setup, which would be like a solid state drive and a large mechanical or an M.2 or NVMe drive, I'm going to try one hard drive on this. And what this is this is the Seagate Barracuda 2 terabyte hybrid hard drive. So they say it's a hybrid solid state and mechanical. We're going to find out how it performs, because when you put this thing under heavy VR, if that drive isn't fast enough, you're going to see it, and that's a big thing. So we're going to test that out. For a video card, we're going with one of our old trusties, but one of my favorite versions of it. We're going to go with an RX 580. Now this 580 is the Red Devil, and that is a sharp looking card. Of course, the only real problem is you're not actually going to see it in this case, which, all right, fine, Chrome don't get you home, I get it, but it is a great looking card. So that's our video card. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to clear out the desk here. We're going to go ahead and get the motherboard mounted. I'm going to save us a lot of time here, guys. We're going to do this in stages. Motherboard gets mounted. I'll show you guys what it looks like inside this small case. Then we'll mount the power supply, and then we're going to go ahead and get the all the accessories, like, and this is the hard part. Get it cabled up. We'll get the hard drive mounted wherever we're going to mount that. I can't even see where that goes yet. I think it goes right here on the side, which is great. And we'll put it all together, see what it does. Here we go. All right, guys, so we're going to pause right here for just 1 second. Before somebody notices this and catches it, and I'm going to show Stumpy this, that obviously, that cooling tower is not from a Ryzen 5. All right, everybody can probably see that pretty clearly. That's not a Ryzen 5 cooling tower. What this is we had a customer that came in here last week and we did an upgrade on his system and went with a Ryzen 7. He also got a really nice cooling solution for it, so we were dealing with, you know, an entire, you know, double radiator situation and everything. So he didn't need this cooling tower. So we're going to use this awesome cooling tower, given that I don't know what the story is with this case yet, this awesome cooling tower on this motherboard. And as you can see, the tower consumes most of the surface area of this motherboard. Between that and the video card, which, once again, we've done this before. Yeah, so this poor board's going to be pretty much buried under there. And I did want to point out, and most of you guys know this, this board does actually have an M.2 slot, but we're not actually going to use it. It's right here. So we're not actually going to use it for this. We may in the future. It just depends on how well that hybrid drive performs. So we're going to know shortly. All right, I just wanted to stop and show you guys that really cool tower, because this is that. I think they call this the Wraith Spire, but it comes stock with the 2700X. That does not come with the Ryzen 5. So yeah, pretty cool. All right, moving on. All right, guys, so here's what it looks like with just the motherboard mounted in this case. And as you can see, that Wraith Spire consumes a very large amount of space in here, but it looks pretty cool. I almost wish that this did have some kind of a glass side on it, so you could see in here and see this when it's done. As I recall, and I've got one of these at my house too, the Wraith Spires, there are LEDs on this, but there's no LED controller that we're going to build into this, and I'm pretty certain that this board doesn't have it. But the standard setting for it just kind of like pulses the LED, so I'm curious to see what it looks like when we fire it up. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. I'm going to get this power supply mounted. This is the one I'm curious to see how much room we got left with all these cables. It's going to be crazy, but we're going to see what we can do. Here we go. All right, and here's how it looks with the power supply. You know, strangely enough, guys, looking at this, I kind of like the color scheme that we've got going here. Since the case cover panels down here are kind of grayish, and it matches up with the side of this power supply as well as the fan blades, it's not looking bad. This has actually kind of got one of those Dark Knight vibes to it. So, yeah, we'll keep on going. Let's see what it looks like. Here we go. All right, so now that we've got some of the basic cabling in here, let's go ahead and crack open this hard drive and see what we're dealing with here. Now, admittedly, I do not have a lot of experience with hybrid drives. So, I mean, I've heard of them. I know about them. I reviewed the specs and the transfer speeds, but at the end of the day, never had a lot of direct experience. What I can tell you is it looks like, exactly, very, very small, almost looks like, well, it is a laptop hard drive. But what I'm curious about is the internal workings, and that's what we're going to get into here. All right. Now, one thing I want to show Stumpy here that I do like about this case. Now, you can see as I've already started cabling up in here, and we're going to get all this tidied up here shortly. But one thing that I do like is this. If you'll recall on that last video we did with the trash to treasure, and if you forgot about that, I'll go ahead and link it up here in the description for you. It had a really neat mounting for the SSD drives where you literally just could slide it in, lock it in place. Well, this one appears to have that same mounting panel. This also acts as a great place to cable tie around the back and to conceal some of the cabling here. Although I think I'm going to probably use mostly this drive bay up here for cable concealment just because it's easily accessible from right at the power supply. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this drive out. We're going to get it mounted up right here, and then we'll take the next step. Here we go. Okay, guys, so on a design note, I wanted to let you know, the drive itself, it was a little different than the other one we had where we could actually attach to these two connections. In this particular case, what we had to do is, these holes do not mount up with this particular drive. Now, fortunately, they do have holes that do, and you can see there was a set here for 3 different hard drives. So we mounted to the bottommost portion of this one, which ought to give us the shortest throw for the cable. So that's what we're looking for. So, all right, we're going to continue on. That's a little bit of an annoyance, but nothing that I can't live without. So, all right, we're going to keep on moving. All right, guys, so if you'll recall, one of the things I always tell people when they do projects like this is to remain fluid because things can change as you're going. Well, the first thing that I had to change, and I want to show you this, is this hard drive had to be mounted at the top because of where this video card was sitting. There was nowhere to put it under here. It will fit with the hard drive at the top, but a more important problem, and I should have caught this right off the bat, guys, but I didn't. The power supply that we used it's a new AppVia power supply, but it's got an 8-pin for the video card, for the PCI Express video card. The problem is the Red Devil has an 8-pin and a 6-pin. So we can't use this video card. However, I do have another RX 580 that we can use. So we're going to save this one for a future build. This is one of them that I use in my Bitcoin mines quite a bit. So those power supplies, you can imagine, if you watch that last video, have dozens of different connections on there for this. But we're going to go ahead, we're going to run this Aorus RX 580, all right? So essentially the performance ought to be pretty close to the same, but the card itself is a little bit smaller, which is a good thing for this build, and we'll be able to get to that 8-pin connector, and I'll show Stumpy that right here. So there's that 8-pin connector, and that is all we get with this power supply. All right, so let me go ahead and get the last of this all put together, and we'll fire it up. And there you go. So we've got the complete build of the system now, and as you can see, actually, you know, using the up here for cable management and some back here, it turned out pretty darn nice. You can't even really see any of that stuff. But everything seems to fit real well. You've got airflow coming in from the front that should blow across this video card, which is nice also. This is going to be pulling air out and through the power supply. So hopefully that will be enough airflow. If not, we can always add a fan right here to pull more air this direction. But we're going to test it and see what we get first. So, all right, let's go ahead and get this all buttoned up. And I'm going to fire it up, and we'll see what she does. So let's go ahead and let's fire this up together, shall we? And hopefully Stumpy here will be able to see everything on the front there. That's what we're looking for. All right. Oh, yeah, guys, check out that LED on that fan. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, that LED looks really, really nice. And as you can see, The AORS video card also has LEDs on it. All right, so let's take a look and see what we got here. All right, so this is the Gigabyte BIOS. We are running at 3200 megahertz, that's fine. 3.2 gigahertz on the processor, 2400 megahertz on the memory. And we are showing all RAM, that's good. Now, once again, this is going to change because we will go ahead and put 16 gigs into this thing, there's no doubt about it. So, all right, so let's go ahead and we got that. And as you can see, it does actually see our 2 terabyte Seagate drive on SATA port 0, so we're good there. All right, so let's go ahead, let's get Windows 10 loaded on this thing and take a look at it. I have a feeling that it's going to be great. Now, I'm going to save you guys having to watch the Windows 10 load. Everybody knows how boring it is. But overall, I got to tell you, the Fractal case design, it's a beautiful case. It really is. And I'm going to pan Stumpy over here. It's small, but it's so well constructed that there's room to put everything that you need to. And it looks like we're getting some massive airflow from that small fan. And I was actually a little bit surprised at that. So there it is. That looks very, very good. All right, so we're going to do a future video on this particular machine running some virtual reality and possibly doing some gaming as well. So I'll save you guys all that right now. We're going to go ahead and wrap this video up with a positive review for the Fractal Core. Very good. It's decent. I will put links to everything that I used on this video in the description below. We got another Bake a Pie coming up, guys, so keep your eyes peeled. I'll be working on that in the next couple of days. It's a little more complicated than the other ones we've done. It's even a little more complicated than the arcade one-ups. But it's going to be worth it. It'll be very cool. So have a fantastic week and a great weekend again. If you want to see all these in action, they're always running down here at the flea market. If you guys are in the area, you know where to find me. Come on down and see me. We'll talk to you guys soon. Stay safe out there, guys. Have a good one.